What is up, everybody? Welcome to Logical, Plausible, Probable. I've been around in quite some time and crazy busy, lots of stuff going on in my life. But tonight, I decided I had to do a stream. So, as many of you know, I live here in the great city of Nashville, Tennessee, where a rather important global event was going down, which was the last and really second and last debate between Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump. There's an election, I think it's in 11 days from now, that will decide the leader of the free world. Kind of a big deal. And anyway, I was driving around Nashville earlier today and pretty close to Belmont University. And as I'm driving down Belmont Boulevard, there's like these groups and everybody, there's Trump people on one side and Biden on the other, like yelling at each other, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, tonight might be interesting. Might have some entertainment value going down outside of Belmont. And since I don't live that far away, I decided, man, I'm going to go check this out tonight, see what kind of action is going down. And so I did. And I got to say, that was interesting. The level of stupidity on both sides of the street, the BLM and the Biden folks on one side, the Trump people intermixed with Antifa and BLM on the other side, yelling at each other across the street, people driving down from both sides of the equation, honking their horns, literally busting U's, coming back, honking the horns again. Good grief. It was just so dumb. And I'm sitting there like, interact with some folks, talk to them, and, just kind of made some observations throughout the night. And I sat for like 2 hours. And I got to say, folks, I was rather disappointed with both sides of the equation. I'm like, man, there are some serious characters, both on the Trump supporter side and the Biden side / Antifa / BLM, whatever they were, because they were all mixed together. I mean, some of the arguments were so incoherent. It was nuts. And then towards the end of the night, I ran into this guy who was apparently he's trying to run for president. The dude's literally wearing glow stick halos, like around his neck, on his head, talking about like, no matter who wins, Nazis are going to, start a civil war on one side, Antifa on the other side. That's why you need to vote for me, because I'm going to solve the problem, while he's wearing a glow stick halo. I mean, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. And on top of all that, there was maybe at the max, at the peak, there might have been like 300 people total. And I'm like, okay. So the cops are everywhere. Roads are shut down. They freaking shut down the interstates. And there's 300 little douchebags running around combined, yelling at each other across the street with bullhorns. This is what life is degenerated to. Anyway, by the end of the time I left, I think there were more cops out there than protesters. It was that crazy. But anyway, Chris, Keith, what's up, man? Welcome to the stream. How you doing, man? Good to talk to you.
Yeah, buddy. Good to talk to you. I thought overall the debate was just, it was better than the last debate for sure, but they didn't really get a chance to hit in there to too many good points that I wanted to hear about. But I noticed one thing for sure Joe Biden lied on when he said that nobody lost their health insurance, because I had, in this state right here we live in, they had Cover 10, and that was for people that got laid off. It's like a Cobra type thing, but Tennessee had it. So I paid like $100 something a month, and I was able to have like decent insurance. Got me my basics. I had like 4 specialty visits and like so many doctor visits. And as soon as Obamacare went in effect, they dropped that. They cut it completely out. So that was a lie for a fact. So I don't know how many lies they were keeping up with fact checking, but I can guarantee you that was a lie. But overall, I mean, I think most people are dug in. Probably 5 or 6% of the people left, making up their mind, and I don't know how much that changed anything.
Well, I'll tell you what I observed from it in the I got so bored with the protesters and being outside. They were like, I stopped recording, and then like I'd flip on the debate, and sitting there watching on my phone, standing outside the Curb Center at Beaumont. Anyway, long story short, I'm going all this is Joe Biden sounded like he was about to pass out.
At the end, yeah, he was. You could see him. I think he looked at his watch, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was slowing down at the end. You could tell
the level to which his words were slurring was very noticeable.
Yeah, I feel bad if he gets in there because we're in trouble.
Well, absolutely, but I mean, if anybody that actually watches these debates, I mean, if you can't tell that Joe Biden has got, I mean, he's 77 years old. I mean, he's significant cognitive deficit is happening before our very eyes. Like, there's no doubt about this. And wow,
I don't know. I don't think he necessarily had the questions in advance or anything, but he did do a lot of looking down at whatever notes he had prepared. So he was going a lot of talking points and some of that.
Yeah, I had to flip away when it's like, no, we're going to switch over to climate change. And I forget what they were talking about before, but like whatever they were discussing actually had relevance. Then she's like, no, let's go talk about climate change. Like, really?
Yeah, well, Trump kind of got him a little bit. That would be one of the things that maybe Trump hit him on that might stick a little bit is like got him to say that he was going to phase out, or he was going to try to phase out or energy sector like natural fossil fuels to try to transition over. But that's going to be if you look at the Green New Deal, which he's not supposedly for the Green New Deal, but I mean that's going to be very expensive to do. That's the gas prices. You remember when Obama was in office, and gas was like $4 and something, $5 a gallon. I mean that's what crippled most people. So I think that people need to think about that if they're going to vote. I think Trump could do a better job of hammering that part home. But he mentioned it, but I mean, you got to really hammer that to people, let them know, like he did about the 401ks too, because of the stock market. Joe Biden was saying, we care, well, people at home don't care about the stock market, but it matters because, if you have a 401k, it matters. We've seen how bad they dropped, unfortunately, when the bubble busted, and, a lot of people lost a lot of money. So.
Yeah. Well, the market's guaranteed to tank if Biden wins. Like guaranteed. I mean, it's one of the ironies I find about the media propaganda. Like when Trump won, I don't know if you guys, most people remember this, but when Trump won in 2016, all the way leading up to it, if Trump wins, the dollar is going to collapse. The market's going to tank. You guys are just going to lose everything.
And we're going to be in a war the next day.
It was the literal opposite.
Yeah.
In 2016. Just like in 2020, if anybody thinks that the market is not going to go into free fall and that those corrections are going to happen if Joe Biden wins. I mean, companies have already been making like public announcements about like, hey, just to let everybody know, if Biden wins, we're going to, layoffs are going to be permanent. Investments are going to be, we're going to just stay the course. We're not going to do any like growth investments and stuff like that. Like when publicly traded companies, public and private companies are making those announcements, like and just like letting their employees and their investors know up front, like, do you think they're doing this to try and sway votes? No, they're doing it to like prepare people for what's going to happen.
For whoever wins, though, I just hope we get a vaccination quick because, like, if God forbid if we have to shut down anything again, I mean, it like you were talking about the drug rates and overdoses and just people. I mean, we get that the risk reward. We're gonna have to get back to work, man. We're gonna have to take the risk, and it's sad, but I mean, just. There's the rates of people dying. I know it sounds like I'm saying, like let people die. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like people are going to die either way, So that's my opinion. But Orb just stepped in. What do you think about it, Orb?
About the vaccine, about the debate,
or the debate, whatever you want, whatever we're talking about, anything, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say the debate was a lot better than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an obvious statement. I'm gonna throw my liberal card out there. I'd say Trump I'd say Trump didn't do as well. Trump kind of trumped around a lot, talked and talked and talked without necessarily giving specifics, telling stories, stuff like that. Biden tried to be more onto the point for a lot of stuff. Kind of, I don't think it'll sway voters given the election, but
I agree.
It was kind of what is. If I could have predicted what it would be like, given that they couldn't interrupt each other, it's what I would have predicted.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, the whole "we're gonna mute your mic" thing
kind of reduces the talking points, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's just dumb. I mean,
well, you watched that first one, right? I mean, the first one was you couldn't follow anything.
Well, no, I watched the first one. I mean, there was a lot of definitely a lot of interruption on both sides. I mean, the irony though is that Chris Wallace did more interrupting than either Trump or Biden, which was funny.
Yeah, Chris Wallace.
I think Chris Wallace interrupted like 74 times. I think it was in the first debate. It's like the
yeah, it was a cluster, no question.
Well, I mean, they said tonight though that she like Biden, she stopped Trump like 30 times and only Biden like 2 times. So yeah, the media is all. I mean, whether you got to agree or the media is a little bit one sided when who they want to win. It's pretty obvious.
I can grant that most of your quote unquote mainstream is going to be supporting Biden. I can grant that, but I would have to counter with she was interrupting Trump when Trump was trying to talk over. So, I mean, you got to kind of count both of those as the interruption there, right?
But actually, she let a couple.
It's not like Trump was quiet.
Yeah, she let let Biden interrupt Trump a couple times and didn't say anything or stop it. So just 1 or 2 times. Yeah, go ahead.
I would.
So on another point, since we get a liberal in here, what of Biden's policies do you support?
Me?
Yeah.
I support his approaches towards the climate and jobs.
What are his approaches to jobs?
Well, the climate as it relates to jobs, the re-engaging of
like Solyndra,
the re-engaging of regulations, the promotion of clean energy, things like that. I support that. That's probably my biggest voting parameter.
Okay, so in terms of clean energy, do you mean solar and wind, or natural gas, or
what nuclear, they were talking about at the end, where Trump thought he got him on the "I want to get rid of oil eventually" statement. I would say that is something I would agree with. I look 50 years in the future. I don't, assuming technology keeps going the way it does, take a technocentrist approach to it. I don't see fossil fuel being, I don't see coal, oil, even natural gas really being the primary focus of our energy production. And if we're going to go that way eventually, do we want America to be in the forefront of it, or do we want America to be lagging behind?
Okay, so if we continue to progress from a technocentric perspective, how are we going to produce enough power from a pure volume perspective to keep up with it? If we go over to, you got to be specific here. Like when you say you're going away from fossil fuels and natural gas, etc., where's the power coming from?
Well, I think first of all, it's a combined approach of reduction of energy along with changing over the energy, right?
How's that working in California right now?
I don't live in California. I'm unaware, but I know if I replace my windows in my house, I save energy costs, right? Those things I think are useful talking points, very useful too.
Well, you have to tear down the building to redo
new
it.
Windows.
No. What is going to be the source? Let's not talk about demand just yet. Let's talk about source. Where is the power going to come from?
I imagine looking at it, your renewables, wind, solar, hydro, nuclear to a certain extent. The future is more so in those than in oil. You can only get so much out of oil. The technology really can't be improved any more than what we have.
Okay, so name any kind of person who's in favor of Green New Deal type legislation, regulation that's also in favor of nuclear power.
Well, I'm not saying I agree with 100% of the Green New Deal AOC stuff. I think nuclear is a component.
Okay, but they're all against it, and they're all actively trying to shut down every nuclear power plant we have.
Yes,
So
yes. I'm
do
not going to
you
say
do,
that.
do, so do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea?
I think that. Well, I mean, if I was to write the Green New Deal, I'd write it different. But if the choice is,
I'm talking about right now. You have
yeah,
a Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who are active advocates of shutting down nuclear power. So,
yes.
do you think that if we shut down nuclear power, that we will be able to replace the volume of energy that's created from nuclear, just magically reproduce that volume with renewable?
If you really need a yes or no, no. But if I could expand on that,
No, hang on, because this is the crux of the matter, which I honestly am. It astounds me that people who have a modicum of intellect, and I'm assuming that you do, given what you do and your education level, the stupidity of thinking that somehow solar and wind is going to be able to replace natural gas and oil, and coal, let alone nuclear, is hilarious to me.
well, I just said it. I just said at the current state, you would need nuclear. I think nuclear increasing would be a useful thing.
Right, but I'm talking about you support Joe Biden, correct?
I voted for Joe. Yeah.
Okay, so you are for somebody who wants to remove the primary source of our power, which is coal, and then also wants to go away from natural gas.
Well, oil's the primary, not coal, and natural gas is by higher up.
I'm pretty sure coal is one of the largest.
Coal's rolling around like 10-15% nowadays.
Or can I ask a quick question? I'm gonna ask what state you live in, but just the state you live in, did they vote for Trump last time?
I believe it was a Trump state. Yeah, I live in a swing state.
Okay.
My particular area is rural and therefore Trumpian. You know, I'm not my vote.
What
for
do you
Joe
think
Biden
your state's
going to
go? How do you think your state's going to go? You don't have to give your state. Just how do you think it's going to go?
Honestly, for 2016 taught me anything is that predictions don't mean shit. So
true that. But just if you had to guess,
yeah. But I guess Maddox, to what you were saying, I think it's important to keep the time frame and context here. If Joe Biden was saying, "Hey, I'm going to shut down every oil plant my first 100 days," I would have a big issue with that. But if we can set up a plan to where 20 years down the road, we can start decommissioning these, shut them off, and transitioning over, I think that's a better approach.
Okay, so I also want to apply a real world scenario that's happening as we speak, being implemented as we speak in California. And I just want you to answer me if this is a remotely plausible scenario or it's just complete stupidity. Gavin Newsom signed legislation the plan is to outlaw all gasoline powered vehicles by, I think it's 2030.
I would say that if you gave me those two options to answer, I would put that in the dumb category.
Okay, so is that even a remotely viable thing to do?
My hope is that is more of a where we're going to align than an actual we're going to outlaw things. That's my hope. If it's applied as written,
they're going to implement regulations to try and force that outcome.
Yes.
So Joe Biden and the Democrats in DC have taken actions when they've been in power to implement those exact same types of policies.
Yes.
They publicly said they're going to do so. And if you think it's dumb to do it in California and not actually a viable option, but they're taking direct action from the power given to them by the people, do you think that it's remotely sane to try and to support somebody who wants to implement the exact same types of policies that you just said were dumb to do in California?
So my response to that would be, if I had a choice between not pushing towards electric, for example, and pushing towards electric, I'm going to go with pushing towards electric.
From a pollution and a greenhouse gas perspective, do you actually think that going on lithium batteries is actually better than like hybrids, for example?
I think hybrids is a good. again, I'm not trying to argue specifically for the 2030 California legislation here.
No. I'm talking about
My
in general.
opinion is,
I'm talking about just in general of what I think are honestly borderline stupid for anybody to policy positions to support for anybody that has a brain IQ above 100 that actually goes and looks beyond the surface level talking points. Because I mean, okay, let's assume that we like right now it's like what 2. I think it's less than 2% of all vehicles are pure electric.
yeah,
If you jump to 50% of vehicles being electric, what do you think that does to the electricity volume demand?
yes, this is something that would need to be adjusted simultaneously. Exactly.
Okay, so
I agree.
if in California, as an example, they're shutting down their nuclear power plants. If we jump 50% in, let's say we jump 10% in power demand from more electric vehicles being on the road, how in the hell are we going to generate that volume of new demand of electricity?
I am going to the assumption that these are questions that have been answered. Do I know the actual answer to that question? I'm not in the power producing industry at the moment. However, I can only hope the legislators in California aren't so stupid that they don't realize we're going to need more power. Infrastructure.
This is coming from. Oh man, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at the premise of the politicians in California not being stupid enough to not recognize this.
Well, someone, not the politicians, sure, probably stupid enough, but the people that actually do the work, I hope they're not stupid enough to not increase the grid alongside with the increased amount of charging
Well,
stations.
given the fact that they're currently having rolling blackouts and brownouts and have been for the last
Well, that's
decade.
probably more due to the fires than a lot of other things. I mean, there's a lot of rebuilding.
Yeah, but the cause of it is due to incompetence. It's been admitted by California that it's their own fault.
I guess, it's good to get the minutia of the conversation out of the way, but on a strictly trajectory sense, I'm going to want to lean towards a trajectory that says we're not using internal combustion engines when we have a technology that is still actively growing and improving, right? Electric cars today versus electric cars 10 years ago, completely different conversation. You're not driving around Chevy Volts anymore. Those things are, novelties, whereas now Teslas, people actually drive them every day. It's not weird in other parts of the world, not mine.
True. All right, Joel, man, what's going on? So, sorry, me and Ogre been arguing over here. What's up, man? What do you think about the debate tonight?
Hey, yeah, it was annoying as usual, but yeah, appreciate you having me on. Yeah, and I was listening to you guys. The thing that they didn't cover that is not really covered anywhere hardly. To the answer to what you guys are talking about is fusion. There's all kinds of new breakthroughs going on with the Lockheed's doing, with ITers doing. There's all kinds of stuff all over the world about how that stuff's right around the corner. That's almost literally free, limitless energy. You can get freaking fuel from the ocean. So I don't know why they don't talk about that stuff more often. And the point I was going to make against what Ogre was saying was that the people that you're saying you're supporting are against not only your own ideas, but they're against fusion technology, which to me as a scientist is insane.
I'm going to admit I don't know a lot about the current state of personal fusion. Okay. I don't know about fusion-driven cars aside like Fallout. So
yeah. Well, it's not quite like that yet. We're going to have personal reactors in our cars yet. They're working on it. But no, it's just that's the thing. I wish more people would talk about,
the flying DeLorean. The flying DeLorean with Mr. Fusion will be real at some point.
Yeah. He's talking about the Fallout video game. If you're not familiar, John.
I was having a flashback to Back to the Future.
Yeah,
and it comes in and it's got Mr.
I'd be fine with the DeLorean too.
He's got Mr. Fusion.
I like my wings.
Mr. Fusion powers the flux capacitor. That was good. Smokey Saint, what's up, man? How you doing? Smokey, you're on mute, bro.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, doing all right, man. Thanks, appreciate it. How you doing?
Oh, hanging in there. So I did go down to Belmont. I walked through the stupid people on both sides. I kid you not, guys. I know we're good.
Why didn't you videotape it? By the way, I figured you kind of would have given us.
No, I did. I uploaded.
Oh, you did. Okay. You did. Oh, okay. I didn't see it.
And I got another. I'll show so I actually interacted with two. I had a very passing interaction with two Antifa people today. It's actually kind of interesting. Huh. So let me find that real quick. So yeah, you know how we always joke that they're soy boys and little people? Yeah. They were a joke. They walked past me and I almost missed them. They were that far below my shoulders. I'll put it that way. And I don't mean that. I mean that literally, not figuratively.
Yeah, fall through a crack in the soil. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the BLM, Biden, Antifa folks. I'd say more like BLM and Biden. They literally were standing on two sides, each side of Wedgwood Avenue, which is the road that goes in front of Belmont, and there was one person with a bullhorn on either side of the road, and they were chanting back and forth to each other with bullhorns. I'm like, what is happening here? And the lack of any semblance of understanding of what the underlying meaning of the chants they were doing. You could tell the vast majority of them. I talked to a couple off camera. They didn't even understand what the hell they were yelling about. I'm so do you know? This one little round they kept doing 3 or 4 times was "We welcome refugees" and going back and forth. And I went over to one of them and I'm like, you do realize? At first I was like, which country lets in the most refugees in the world? It's not us. Actually, it is. It is us. Germany's number 2 right now. But we usually there's usually we've let in literally 1 million people more than the number 2 country. Right now, Germany's still way behind us, but moved up quite a bit. But there for years, the United States was letting in hundreds of thousands, close to 1 million immigrants per year. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? You guys don't even. Yeah. Anyway. Were you saying something, Smokey?
Yeah, I mean, no, it was a passing thought on the context of what you were saying. It escaped me for the moment. Apologies.
I mean, I guess I'd have to throw in and say, yeah, I'm sure 95% of the people out there marching and chanting on both sides are dumb and they're just to be part of the group.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I was writing about this earlier. There were plenty of idiots on the. They were on the quote unquote Trump supporting side.
That's why the late night talk shows go interview them, because they can always find 5 or 6 retards that didn't know Obama was in office and think that Biden started World War II or something. I mean, on both sides.
Didn't know Lincoln freed the slaves.
Yeah, crap like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was stupid. I'm like, you guys are morons. Let's see here. Let's see.
My side's just as bad.
I think it is a lot of
a night. This is a freaking joke. Very boring. No real entertainment.
Let's see if I can find the.
It's kind of funny.
When was this again, John?
What'd you say?
When was this again?
This is tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a Belmont. He lives in Nashville.
Have they nothing else to talk about?
You say so, bro.
I don't. Yeah, it's just we just stand on the corner and yell the same thing over and over again, and people are somehow convinced by this. This is.
I'm trying to. Where's the one with Antifa? Let me see.
Yeah, I was gonna vote one way, but man, this girl was just
yeah, she was just screaming the same thing over and over
I just,
again.
you know what? I had an epiphany. I said, you know what? she has to know something I don't.
No, I tell you, it was walking around through that crap. I'm like, what the flaming blah 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 is this? I mean, this is just, ugh. Idiots.
I would have done the same thing if I was you, John. Being that close, I would have had to stroll down there and check it out if I could have.
So everybody,
I would have thought it would have been more
tried,
people though, especially national.
doing a little short live stream test.
Why are you wearing a mask, you pussy?
Just going to
Huh?
Why are you wearing a mask?
record a little bit, and then I'll.
Let's see.
You're
Now for
very
debate.
brave for wearing that mask.
I do notice you have
Okay.
people out there that don't give a crap, though. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's like 50-50 in the state. Most people some people wear masks, some don't. They don't really care. I mean, as far as the government don't force anything.
If I was to go outside without a mask in my state, I will be crucified on the spot.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, not here. It's kind of optional.
The smart people.
And I've been wearing a mask since the beginning, and like
Okay,
I've
so-
read people catch masks,
Okay,
catch
now I
with a
gotta
mask
find out.
without.
Okay, hang on.
Sorry,
So this woman right here in the you kind of see right briefly in the flag pants. Okay, that was hilarious. I didn't get it on camera when I first arrived. Holy crap. She was on the other side of the street, like in the middle of the Biden folks. And they were yelling at each other. I mean, it was so obvious neither party was actually listening to the other one. They were like yelling questions at each other, and their responses weren't always other additional questions, but they were like responses that did not even remotely address whatever the other person's question was. I'm sitting there like, what is going on here? And I'm pretty sure she was drunk. There were a couple other, there were quite a few drunk people out there too. Henry, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So, did you watch the madness tonight?
Oh yeah, I streamed it on my channel. I had a couple of friends watching it. We were kind of talking over it some, so I didn't catch like every bit exactly. I guess my general thought was that it turned out, I think, well for Biden, and not in like the thing I was saying on my own channel about this is that it's not about. And I've said this before about debates. It's not about like actually making better points. Like this is kind of a dog and pony show, especially this, more so than even YouTube. It's about like rallying your own base at this point. I think Trump maybe was like trying to come more to the center and pull some more people to his side because he's losing the polls and things like that. It seemed like he was trying to like get the people that are already voting for him to go out to the polls.
Yeah.
Is kind of my view of it. Like, and it's, it's also about getting sound clips, right? About getting things that can be replayed on the internet and on 24-hour news the next day. Like that's kind of the more important thing in these debates rather than like making like actual points. You know what I mean?
I think Trump probably got the edge on that at the end because he got him to say a couple things.
Yeah. Trump definitely had some good stuff too. And I obviously have my own bias.
I think
my own bias. So I'm like,
just to update, Real Politics said that Trump won 74 to 24%. But I mean, I'm sure CNN or somebody else will disagree. But
they're all gonna have their own polls.
He won the debate by that percentage. Or?
Yeah, that's what Real Clear or Real Politics says.
Okay, so I found the little Antifa black clad folks. All right, so this was the only two that I saw that were actually like dressed up as real Antifa. Irony of irony is these two girls right here. Earlier,
4 to 10.
Neff was talking about like, oh, well, from Tennessee, everyone must be dumb. I'm like, yeah, okay. So those girls, they're actually pretty cute, but they had just ridden in from Oklahoma. There was like all these people, like I'm walking through listening to folks talk, like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm not from Tennessee. And I'm sitting there listening to people like, oh yeah, I came down from New York. I'm like, so we've got all these idiots out here protesting that aren't from Tennessee, let alone like not from Nashville, let alone Tennessee.
Thanks for bringing us COVID in.
This is funny, but okay. So in just a second, the
a-holes.
You will see the Antifa folks here. Oh, by the way, later on in the evening, those two girls were on the other side of the street. Some dude that was with them was holding giant speakers, and they were like singing Trump chant songs. It was pretty funny. All right, here comes Antifa, folks.
There is Antifa.
All
They
two
are
of them.
tiny.
Man, we
Jesus.
got some color guards. Color guards arrived.
Yeah,
All right, let me go ahead and
this is Trump
Antifa color
territory
guards.
right here.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Ah. So the real ones are here now, huh?
Boy, they got the gear. They got the gear, don't they?
Yep.
What is that on their
I must think they're in Portland because
Yeah. So I'm like, you see,
What are they even wearing?
I don't
that's
know.
what I'm saying. When I walked over and talked to some of the cops, and I was like, "So did you guys see the little Antifa people?" And they're like, "Yeah, we saw them." And, we just had a good we had a chuckle, like kind of standing there. But I was joking. I was like, "Yeah, I guess they didn't realize that down south we're a little bit bigger." Oh yeah,
They're tiny people.
little people.
Dude,
I mean,
like midgets.
I'm
Like,
se-
what are they even there for?
okay, did you get? I don't know if you guys noticed from the camera angle. I was not holding the camera up high. Like I was holding the camera at chest level. Okay?
No, dude, it's like you went and visited Lilliput. You had the little
I know.
everywhere, freaking roaming around with black masks, man. That's radical.
I know. I mean, think about this. Okay,
they
so
were
I'm
girls, right?
probably.
God, I freaking hope so.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, honestly.
But I mean, think about this though. Think about this. Okay, I am when they walk past me, I'm holding the camera at about mid chest level. Okay, and you look at it, it's angling down on me.
There is Antifa.
Okay, I'm 6'1". I mean, I'm not short, but I'm not a giant. So I mean, just think about this.
And we got some color guards.
Dude, they're not
Color guards
even
arrived.
shoulder height.
All right, let me go ahead and
Antifa color guards.
well, there are some short ones there. Huh?
And look at this large lady that's walking up next to them. The like she makes them look tiny.
Oh my gosh, dude, they're like 5 feet tall.
What do they have
real
on
ones are
them?
here
What
now,
is?
huh?
Okay, so the one chick's wearing like they both have helmets. They both
Yeah, I
have
saw that. I
combat-
see the helmet.
Yeah,
Do they have?
yeah. I think
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow
Do they
the
have
yellow
weapons?
brick road.
but yeah, I'm like, man, this is too good. I was like, man,
Wow, man.
that one, them walking past and being able to get them on camera, that made the night worth it for me. Like the rest of it was just like, this is a complete waste of time. But then actually getting to have direct contact with a couple of Antifa dressed up minions, yeah,
You got into a squabble?
with them, no.
Just asking. You
But
said
they-
direct contact. I don't know.
Well, no, we like bumped into each other. as they were
Oh,
walking.
okay.
That's how I noticed them. Really was the one little person, whatever it was, like bumped into me as I was walking. It didn't even like move me. It's that part of it was entertaining,
Were you concealed carrying during this event?
possibly. But,
I may or may not know whether or not LPG was.
I do
or
not
was
recall.
not
I do
feeling
not
very-
recall, sir.
well, the irony is that let's just say I was not remotely unprepared, shall we say, and I was very disappointed when I got there. I'm like, man, I actually seriously considered going back to my car and like relieving myself of carrying the extra weight. Hypothetically speaking, because I wouldn't park that far away. And I'm like, man, I'll keep it just in case. And I'm like, yeah, what the heck? It was weird. It was very weird. Yeah.
It seemed like a pretty more or less tame event
Oh yeah, it was.
compared to like Kenosha and shit like that.
Well, no, I mean that's why I decided to, make
Yeah,
sure
that's what I was thinking. Is John going to be the next Kyle? Out here.
So, by the way, would you think that was those Antifa people's whole thing? We're just going to walk by everyone and make a statement. Was that the deal, or?
I have no. Honestly, I wonder if they were planning to try and spark stuff, and then they were such
realized
a
that they
weak.
didn't
Like,
have the
oh wait,
numbers.
it's only two of us.
Well, that's what they need a group. They need a shitload of people to like hide in a crowd, like fish. You know how they like hide from
Yep.
sharks? It's like that.
Well, see, here's the thing: the George Floyd protest that happened here in Nashville back in was it like May 29th, I think it was. That had like a lot of people showed up to that one, and I mean,
really?
oh yeah, dude, like there was a riot. Our city hall got set on fire. Broadway.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I always thought of Nashville as more conservative. I didn't think.
No, Nashville is like.
I guess it's a population center.
Nashville is like Tennessee's Austin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Those are things I thought I just said.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we had so our mayor. So this is what has me really pissed off.
And Memphis is like the Chicago.
No, Memphis has become Detroit. The old version of Detroit. I guess it is more like Chicago now. I would agree with that.
And East Tennessee it's just East Tennessee. You can't mess with it, man. It's the best.
Yeah, we didn't have most of that shit in Texas, but yeah, Austin had a little bit. I think Houston and Dallas had some. It's those urban big cities that.
Well, let's just say that our mayor. You know what? I can't resist this since we've got most people recognize this, but I have got to show you guys, little man, Mayor John Cooper, of Nashville, Tennessee. He is. Oh, good Lord! I can't. It's.
Was that you, Henry, that said you're in Texas?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's just look at this, folks. This little guy is the current mayor of Nashville.
He looks jolly.
Oh, he's a little goober, but it's painful. It's painful.
Lollipop Guild.
Tennessee's known for having goober mayors for some reason. I don't know why, and governors too.
I went through Nashville once years ago when I was in the military, and it was not a good experience.
Really, I always heard it had like a good music scene.
No, see, I loved Nashville.
Oh yeah, Nashville's
a great town.
Music capital, right?
No, we were on a bus from.
Yeah,
finished my boot camp from Fort Sill, going to my first duty station in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we had a overnight layover. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning, I guess. There's about 20 of us or so, and we were all in uniforms, had our big dumb duffel bags on us, and we were stopped in the bus terminal station, whatever, and it's like everybody around there looked like they're ready to kill us. Just mug us. So we literally all just sat together in this little 20-man little crew facing each other's backs to each other. None of us dared go to the bathroom, just waiting for the next bus for 2 hours.
Bus stations, they're probably getting ready to go up north. There's a lot of, they come back and forth a lot north to here.
Yeah. So here we were.
Detroit, Ohio comes a lot.
Like 3 squads worth of freshly trained guys out of boot camp, scared for our lives in this stupid little.
Well, if you were at the downtown bus station,
I have no idea where we were.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Didn't want to be there.
the bus station, the Greyhound station downtown is. Oh, I don't mean this like figuratively.
Same here.
I mean literally. It is about a block and a half from
the ghetto.
The biggest project in the city.
Same here.
And there's like strip clubs on the other side of the interstate that you go under. It's like the central spot for all the panhandlers and like drug dealers and stuff and the crackheads all surround that whole area. And
you don't want to park your car.
What's nuts is
probably where I was then.
with the growth of Nashville over the last decade. There's some it's been gentrified out the yin yang, but there's like all this stuff where it's so funny driving down the 2nd Avenue into downtown and like going to Broadway. There's all these Airbnbs that have popped up that are literally across the street from the project, right? And I see all these tourists walking down to Broadway. It's like a mile, right? And I see them walking at night carrying beer and stuff. And I'm like, you people are idiots. You're gonna literally walk through the crackhead nest to get back to your Airbnb while carrying alcohol. Like, there's been multiple people who got the stabs, attacked. I mean, it's gotten better over the last couple of years because the police finally started having to patrol it way heavier because of all the tourists that were walking back. And after there was a tourist that got shot, and that kind of like kickstarted the greater patrol of that area. But I'm like, the best part of it, if you go into that project off of Lafayette Street, there's literally a sign that talks about how it's the goal of the mayor to make this the safest neighborhood in the city. This whole these people that I
Places
use
in DC where the police literally say, "Do not cross this
You
line."
know what, John? Though what's funny about here is that we have a no vagrancy law, and the bad thing is though is the homeless shelter where they all congregate is like 1 mile or less, or a couple blocks from the bus station. So they're constantly coming through there, man. It's terrible.
That's why I'm pro gentrification. I think it's usually a good thing. You end up with that a lot, where you have like a lot of really nice, like historic or cool parts of town that are like bumped right up against horrible parts of town. So
yeah,
generally, I think gentrifying places is a good thing. But.
Yeah, and don't worry, Chris. I do not look at what my experience was that one night in Nashville, West Tennessee. Every place has got places like that. And, I grew up in Houston, Fourth Ward,
Florida, anywhere. Yeah, I've been.
There's one night where I was taking Kelly through Houston when her first time in Texas.
Oh no, you gotta. He'd never been to California before. Okay?
Right.
I was born and raised in Southern California.
The real hell armpit of the world, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Now go ahead.
Oh no, please! You tell the story far better than I do.
Well, I don't know, man. You tell it good too. But anyway, so we were in this area called Fourth Ward. Now, keep in mind, this is my first time to Texas, right? And I'm in love with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this place exists on Earth. You know, I want to live here for the rest of my freaking life. Anyway, so we wind up in Fourth Ward, right?
Accidentally.
He's like flipping.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
we're gonna die.
We're gonna die.
2 in the morning. I'm lost.
He says we're gonna die because my cell phone's not working.
I couldn't get the GPS thing to work to help figure out how to get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking around. I'm going, what? This is freaking Fresno. Problem?
He's like, this is normal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, wow, okay, guy, you're really overreacting.
And I'm waiting for some guy to jump out of some van to just office right there.
So fast forward. He's moving with me to California where we were stuck for like 6 years, right? And driving down, he's white knuckling it. We're going through freaking East LA, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, just don't make eye contact with anybody else. You won't get shot. You're good. It's fine.
How to survive the urban jungle, right?
He couldn't. It was funny too because when we first crossed the border into California, it was nothing but like this weird volcanic black rock, and the trees were all dead and gnarled. Yeah. And he'd been dead silent for hours because he and I are big talkers, whatever, when we're driving. And out of nowhere, he just goes, well, we're in hell. Welcome to hell.
When you hit those ghettos, when I was in one in Florida at St. Petersburg, good God, I got off an exit and they had like chitlins inside in a little crock pot. And it was like, I didn't know if I was going to make it out of the store or not. That's like one of the places that one of the highest murder rates at the time when I was there.
That's what I'm saying, man. There's so many places where it's like there are beautiful, like awesome parts of town that are like just a couple blocks away from essentially a hellscape. Yeah. Like that you gotta, if you're not from the area, like a lot of tourists aren't, and they just walk through them or whatever. It's unfortunate. Like I wish it wasn't that way.
When I had my my business downtown Nashville, I ended up getting a house that was right across the river. It was like 1.1 miles from my house over the bridge to my office. I like hop on my bike and ride over, so that was great. But I lived literally around the corner from the second biggest projects in Nashville. And when I moved into my house, people were all like, "Oh my God, how could you live there? Like it's so dangerous." And I'm like, yeah, well, I actually looked up the crimes by, and this is what really pisses me off about like what's going on in society in general. As an example of this, is I had looked up all the crime reports, right? On my street where I lived, there had been a grand total of 2 crimes in like the previous 5 years. Literally around the corner had been thousands in that little like 3 square blocks. And I'm like, okay, so my street, 2 crimes, this 3 square blocks around the corner, thousands. If we know where the crime is happening, why would we not apply the known data to try and stop it? Like this makes no sense.
Racist.
Send in more cops. Like that's exactly.
It's like they tried that here, man. They started like rebuilding the houses and making them nice, and they did a good job in a few communities, but like it doesn't take long, and then just like they figure out, they move back in there and they set up shop, man. They start selling drugs
you
again.
You can do it. Yeah. They did it in our downtown area. Well, I won't say where it is, but it's they basically did that. The downtown was beautiful historic area. They reclaimed it essentially. It was like that. It was horrible. It was a ghetto. It was a dangerous place. But it's essentially mainly, I think, like hipsters moving in there and building up businesses and stuff. And then they brought in law enforcement and things like that. They essentially reclaimed the area, and now it's fucking great. It's a fantastic place. So it can be done. It just unfortunately, I think there's this thing on the left where there's that racist shit about gentrification, which to me is a fucking good thing. Like, you're making parts of town nicer and safer. So, but it's also them doing it because they're the ones that move into these dangerous ass fucking places and they like start up their niche. Oh, this is so cool or hip or whatever.
Well, one of the things that really drives me nuts, this applies to the left. I mean, because Nashville's government is run by idiots. I mean, they're idiots. But for example, the Poverty Fund, it has $14 million a year in it. And it's supposed to be used for housing and like all this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, if you've got $14 million a year, this is on top of the Housing and Urban Development Fund, all that kind of stuff. This is on top of that, okay? You are never going to convince me that $14 million a year, if spent efficiently and with some baseline common sense, you could not figure out ways to A, improve housing, B, do exactly what you were talking about, Henry, reclaim areas, provide better for low income folks and such. And I'm like, how do you guys manage to blow through $14 million a year and then keep claiming there's not enough money?
We're pocketing kickbacks.
It's going to come down to local governments, man. That's why local elections and being involved in your local government is just as, if not more important than being involved in presidential elections and shit like that.
They need a skill, like if they're going to rebuild that stuff, they need to like bring those people in that community and bring people in and teach them a skill of how, like, let's say a construction skill or something to help rebuild the community. Then they got a skill that they can use and work. You know what I mean?
That's one
way
way
to do the thing instead.
The way they did it here, they basically got rid of them. They kind of pushed them out, which is another way. Maybe that's wrong or inhumane or something, but
no, it's right. It's called a power vacuum.
It's upping the property values of the area. So essentially they can't afford to live there and they have to go somewhere else. So you could have criticisms of that or whatever, but I mean, it works. So,
well, it's basic socialism is the problem with that, Henry, too. You see it especially in California and on the East Coast. So, like, for example, San Francisco, Bay Area, freaking you gotta make a 6-figure income just to get basically a minimum wage type cost of living. And so they'll do that. They'll raise their salaries or whatever, their caps and all their rent and stuff like that to try to price the criminals basically in the whatever you call it, the non-productive people, try to price them out, and it works. But the problem is it creates that same disparity that those same people seem to hate. You'll have a multimillionaire guy who literally has, a dozen bums literally crapping on his high, whatever 10-foot wall, every day. And then you'll have, they'll take their kids to a nice, wonderful little daycare center that right around that same exact corner is an alley full of drug needles, with kids playing. So that's what it causes. And they try to pretend to create what the laissez-faire, quote unquote, right-wing type does on the flyover country, they call it, where people literally just live and let live and just enjoy being good neighbors. They try to pretend to have that, but they can't because they're constantly oscillating between these power struggles. So if they neglect, trying to invest and build in the infrastructure like you're talking about, then the other side comes in and gets sucked into that power vacuum and goes back back to hell. And it just isolates between that and every other generation. It's annoying.
Yeah,
Chicago.
I mean, there is that thing about the it's a cultural thing as well, because like you were saying, I think it has to do with like larger cities. The larger they get, you get some element in there. I don't know what it is, but I've been to many small towns across Texas where it's like people there aren't rich. They're not rich, but they're perfectly quiescent, like nice places to live that are like totally fine. Like I never feared for my life or either, like I could leave my door unlocked, walk down the street, like my car running out in this road. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not even about wealth. It's something about these cities and what's going on in them. I don't know if it just makes people insane or what.
It's not a power struggle going on.
Well,
yeah,
what I
maybe
was going
that's
to say is I noticed that was one of the biggest reasons why I fell in love with Texas to begin with, is because the ratio is completely opposite of freaking California. There are more good than bad here, from my experience, and it's so true. In California, in the poorer neighborhoods, you don't want to leave your mop outside to drip dry, because somebody will steal that. They'll steal that. They'll steal your doormat. But in Texas, it's true. I mean, Joel and I drove out of town because he was doing the 2010 census back then, and our door flew open because of the wind, right? And we came back, and the neighbor's like, "Oh, your door was open." I went ahead and shut it for you, and everything was fine. There was nothing on it.
There was one time my car wouldn't start, right? And
Oh.
there's a neighbor about 4 or 5 houses down the street. I never met her,
Right,
you know. I
yeah.
didn't know her name or anything. And she saw me trying to push start, and she's like, "Hold on, let me call my husband. I'll come make him come off work to come help you." Kelly just about, I think, fell down and friggin' passed out.
Yeah, because that doesn't happen. And then I bring Joel to California, and he's like, "Oh, there's a car on the side of the road. You know, they have their
Let's go help
hazards
him."
on. Let's go help him." I said,
She's like,
hold up.
"You're gonna die, Joel." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, that's why I avoid large cities like the plague, man. There's something going on there.
I don't know why people want to live there. Just make your money and then move to somewhere like I don't know, somewhere where it's low cost to live in. People are doing that a lot here, but I mean that's just a smart thing.
I
to
like
do.
moderate sized towns. Like there's a nice appeal to the small towns. I like the balance of like still having like kind of modern. There's still restaurants within reasonable driving distance and things like that. But no, small towns. The people are amazing. There's no doubt. There's something fucked up with the big cities, man.
You're better off to live
Well,
about 30 miles outside of a big city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that might be.
I agree, and I thought it was very fascinating to me. So a couple years ago, I ran a political action committee here in Nashville to go against the stupid mass transit crap they wanted to do. Freaking 1.2 million people. We need to spend $10 billion on a freaking train. Anyway, it was very interesting to me listening to the underlying push that was attempting to be covered up, like under the whole, like, oh, our traffic sucks, therefore let's do urban density and like let's push for, you know, all. And I'm like, hang on, so you want to raise taxes and you want to build this stupid train that's not actually going to solve the traffic problem. Per your own admission, it won't solve the traffic problem, which is hilarious. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is, under the whole climate change argument, supposedly, you want to expand urban density. Interesting. Well, let's think about this for a second. Fast forward to 2020 and COVID. You've got 900 people living in a condo building. What are we seeing? The virus is getting into the air conditioning systems and passing through the vents and going up and down elevators, and more people are getting sick in those environments. Just as an example, right? I don't know about you, but the premise of being stuck in a building with everybody else in that kind of scenario is not very appealing to me. But macro view where I'm going with all this is like, why are we trying to put more and more, as technology expands, why are we trying to force more and more people to be in a smaller and smaller place when, as is being shown right now, hey guys, we've got this whole thing called Zoom. We don't have to be in smaller compacted areas in order to work in the technology laden area that we now live, or era we now live in. And I think people are starting, there's been reports on this, but I think people are really starting to have moments of realization of this, like based on common sense. Like, wait a minute, why am I putting up with all this crap in the major city? The danger, the higher cost of living, et cetera, when there's all these alternatives for me.
Because they see a higher salary base is why they don't realize the cost.
Higher property value. That might be, I think, as you were saying that, it kind of made me think maybe the problem with the big cities, the reason the people are so different, it's so much more complicated to get a huge number of people. There's so many issues, like what you were just talking about. It's complicated. There's all this shit about infrastructure and like where you're going to put stuff versus a small town. What's going to divide a town of 500 people? What is their political issue? Like, should we put a stop sign at the intersection? That's what they're talking about. It's not that divisive. It's, they can more or less be unified and in their values and everything else. They're neighbors essentially. Like there's not a lot dividing them. A big city, it's a lot more complicated with a ton of people, tons of different views. it's more diverse. People from all over the world are coming there. It's
Henry, I'm going to make the assumption you never lived in a small town.
no, I have.
Well, then you've lived in the world's best small town, because if there's 5 people or 5,000 people, they're going to bitch about everything.
Well, no, they complain, but complaining about putting a stop sign at an intersection versus like what John was talking about versus like, I mean, it's totally different level of disagreement. Like, people are not going to be like holding up signs and protesting over the stop sign in the middle of town. Like, they're not going to be like beating each other up and screaming at each other over this. Like, it's not like a huge difference. Like, you know what I'm saying? These people are more or less neighbors. Maybe they have some small disagreements, but
no, that's, I mean, in my opinion, people are going to bitch no matter how big the town is. In my hometown,
bitch, but
we've had
the things they're bitching about
are all relative.
Complaining about though, guys.
In my
like,
hometown,
like
we
in
had
small
a thing
town, the
going
biggest
on.
complaints usually are whether or not to let a Walmart come into town or not, so you don't have to drive half an hour out of town. Versus in larger cities, the bigger complaint is whether or not they can meet the police department's retirement payroll, so that the cops don't all just quit and all hell really breaks.
Yeah, it gets more complicated and more political in large cities.
Let me tell you right now, a serious issue here is we're trying to get a Chick-fil-A. Dang it. We want I'm serious. We want a Chick-fil-A closer because, man, we love Chick-fil-A and I love it.
Dude,
I'm serious.
Maybe that's the difference. I was
There's
talking
a whole
about
thing
towns that
behind
wouldn't
it.
even
I
have
tell
a
a story
Chick-fil-A.
sometime, but
they park on the outskirts of town here so people can get access to like a little Chick-fil-A truck even. It's crazy.
I was talking about a town with like 500 people. They're not going to have a Chick-fil-A. They have two restaurants. They're not chains. I'm thinking of one that I worked in quite a bit.
But what I don't understand is why people would want to get like these. I see it like on TV, like they get these, like in some places houses are dinky, but they're in areas where I guess property value is really high. Like, I would rather live somewhere where I get more land and then I can hold on to that than to have like it's a little small piece of land with a house that's probably old and been remodeled and it's probably crappy anyways, but worth like $500,000-$600,000. You know what you can get here, $500,000-$600,000. You have a mansion and I mean literally, dude, and have probably 10 acres. Well, maybe 5 acres, 10, depending on what kind of house you want.
Well, what gets me is and this goes back to my whole problem with leftist policies in general, of the macro control from DC, for example.
Yep.
Like
the power struggle. Yep.
They can't plan and account for problems on the local level. Like, they can't do it. And the governments on the local level, I'm talking about like in bigger cities, can't handle it. So why in the hell is it remotely plausible, or probable that an agency in DC is going to be able to effectively manage? It's going back to my whole point about like regulations and all the different things that are being, have been being foisted and still are from all these federal agencies. I'm like, it's full of a bunch of incompetent idiots. Or they are so far away and so far up the food chain, they're not actually understanding things at the fundamental level of real world application. And like, case of going back to the whole stupid transit thing here in Nashville, they had all these people coming in from like other states and supposed experts. And I got into interactions with them at different like town hall meetings and such. And I was like, okay, cool. So where is the main traffic volume choke points in Nashville? They couldn't answer the question. Like, I just listened to, city council member, whatever, give this like long intro speech about how this person's an expert that we need to rely on. They get up, start spewing all these talking points, and then I'd call them out on like, where does it actually come from? They couldn't answer the question. I'm like, wait a minute. So we've got a supposed quote unquote expert who's got all these degrees who can't tell you where the traffic volume choke points are and where the volume is coming from. And yet they're supposed to come in here and tell us how we're supposed to vote on a tax referendum to give you idiots money to go build this thing. And
what you're talking about, John, is that debate's been lost 100 years ago in America. You're talking about the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists. The Anti-Federalists lost.
Well, true.
So we've been a Federalist ever since.
Well, I agree with you. In principle,
not to cut your point too short, but,
but I mean,
but you're right.
The point,
even if they do agree on something and they get the budget and they get the taxpayer voter approval, and then they spend another 10 years debating on whether some other engineering group says something else, something like an environmental crap for something that should have taken 2 months to do. It's just stupid. It's incompetence.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I gotta go to bed, guys.
the-
I'm gonna say goodnight.
Good night,
I'm
Ogre.
gonna go sleep in my nice little town where everyone behaves and we have Chick-fil-A's everywhere. So
Cool. Take care, Ogre.
good
And
night.
Ogre, hopefully at some point you will realize that leftist energy policies are stupid.
Yeah, I'm sure you convert me 100%.
Have a good night, man.
Oil
Good to talk to you,
renewable,
boys.
Ogre.
Doodles.
You know that?
What?
Oil is actually a
Oh,
renewable
one
energy
last thing,
source.
Ogre. Did you vote? Did you vote Trump last time or Republican?
I've
last time?
already voted Biden. I'm
I
sorry.
know, but what did you vote last time? Is what I'm asking.
Oh
You
God,
didn't
I
vote
vote
Biden.
third
You voted
party.
that AOC lady.
Okay,
remember?
so you didn't vote. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
He was in a swing state. That's why I was asking.
AOC and all those ladies. They said that they own the party, not Trump. They already said it.
I'm trying to get an idea from off the internet from different people that live in different areas what's the real skilo is on the ground these places.
The bartender took over Biden already. Remember?
Hey, free
They
drinks.
failed
Good
her
night.
economics class in college. Sorry.
By the way, sidebar: have any of you ever seen one of AOC's like dance on the rooftop videos?
No.
Oh, who hasn't?
You watch AOC videos for the
Is that like
comedy,
her-
I guess, huh?
Her,
I know I had seen clips before, but I saw one popped up the other day, and this was after she was elected, I believe, and she's like up on the rooftop doing a full scale dance, ends up on a yoga mat, like assuming the position for doggy style. Let's just put it that way.
Yo,
And I'm like,
I saw the
what
one from when she was in
the
college.
flaming
Man,
F
all
is happening
sales.
right now? This is a congresswoman who.
Yeah.
Then it ends with her pouring a glass of wine. I'm like, what is happening right now?
that's what I was going to ask. Was if it was similar to her debut of her discovery of what a garbage disposal was, but it sounds worse.
I mean, you know the story about her, how she got pushed in there by essentially Cenk Uygur and those motherfuckers.
Oh, I mean, they had the literal audition videos.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Cenk Uygur got jealous. He's like, I'm going to run for Congress, and made an ass out of himself because he was like, there's videos of him out there saying, talking about how he is in favor of bestiality, essentially. It's kind of hilarious. He completely lost.
I remember that
Feel like-
clip. He was
Yeah.
talking about how it's okay to bang the horse.
There's several of them. I think the most condemning, there's several where he's going on about this thing of bestiality, but the worst one is probably the clip where he's like, if I were in charge, I think, and then he pauses. He's like, I think I would make it legal to do bestiality if the animal gets off. If you're pleasuring the animal. That's what he said. Seriously. And then Anna Kasparian looks at him and she's like, Cenk, I think that might be the dumbest thing you've ever fucking said. I'm like, whoa, what's so dumb about it? Oh my god.
And that's how AOC got her seat, huh? You're saying?
Oh no, well, Cenk Uygur and those motherfuckers pushed her through. Not just her, they did a whole campaign with basically the squad, several other people that failed. Actually, they gave them their kickoff. Essentially, it was a whole progressive push. They teamed up with Kyle Kulinski. I think it was called the Justice Democrats. They did this whole fucking move. It was essentially a progressive faction, I guess you would call it.
Gotcha.
Infiltrators trying to push these candidates, these joke candidates through, and they got AOC. She was the big star. I think they got Rashida Tlaib too.
I was wanting to mention there's some irony with that, with how George W. Bush won his governorship in Texas was through a sexual moral issue. Who was it that was that you, Henry? That's Texan as well.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Not exactly. No, I am not that old. I wasn't around for the George W. Bush governor.
Yeah, it was the late '90s, and so it was him and Governor Ann Richards. So Texas has been a blue state for most of its life, or whatever. And
it's not going. It's not changing this time around. They think
no, not at all.
No. It will eventually, but
probably
it's like the 2050s is what
right.
they're.
So before it moved solid red. So Ann Richards, she was a Democrat. She was our governor for a long time. And so it was her and Bush. Bush was the new guy, and he was losing. Everybody say, "Oh, George Bush won because his dad's a rich Texan oil guy." No, he was losing, and in Texas. And so it was like not even a month or two before the actual primary, or not primary, the actual election. And so Aaron Richards comes out endorsing some K through 12 education program, which today, you know, nobody bats an eyelash, you know, where they want to promote teaching kindergartners about masturbation, and then first graders get to learn about homosexuality, and third graders, you know, probably learn something about bestiality, and it just gets worse from there,
In the
right?
fucking 90s. They were
Yeah,
doing
from the 90s, and that's how and
Jesus
her
Christ.
approval rating went from like the high 30s plus down to the negatives, and that's how George W. Bush became president, because she endorsed kids wanking off.
He became governor, but
right. Well, no, he became
Governor.
governor. That's what that promoted.
well,
him
yeah,
into-
they gave him the platform to.
right.
Hey,
Like, he
logical
gave
to
him a
bring us
credential to be president, I guess.
to bring it a little bit back to the Trump and Biden. What do you think the Bernie Bros are going to do this time around? They going to sit it out? Or are they going to go
He's
Biden?
still out there.
I don't know, man. That's kind of like the key thing on the left is because they fucking hate Biden. A lot of them.
That's why I mean,
But I'm
as much
surprised.
as much as they hated Hillary.
No. I think that's why some of them are gonna vote for Biden, actually, which is shocking to me. Like looking at some of them and the divide. When you look at the ones that are endorsing him, you had fucking Vaush. I don't know if you. I assume you guys know who Vaush is. He is endorsing Biden, which is shocking to me. But you have other people like Kyle Kalinske, and I think the difference there is their focus. Kyle Kalinski's kind of a foreign policy more so person. We like to call him Kremlin Kyle. He's never gonna support Biden. And people like Jimmy Dore, that guy's a massive piece of shit. I don't think he'll ever support him. These are people that think that like Obama and Biden are right wing, like those types. But even Vaush thinks they're right wing, and he's supporting them. So I don't know. I think the vitriol isn't there like it was for Hillary. There was, especially on the foreign policy stuff, people were saying, you know, Hillary's gonna cause World War III or some shit, or like she, wants to nuke Russia.
Yes.
Crazy shit like that.
Yeah, no, because in George Bond, I mean, you're absolutely right. What they're doing, those of us, you guys that like to really study deep history, they're playing exactly out of the same direct rule book that all democratic socialist fascists always do. What the Bidens and the Hillarys and the Democrat Party in America are doing today are exactly what the National Socialist fascists did, what the Soviet Socialist fascists did to get in power. They put what they can find as their most, blue collar, white, conservative type person on the face of their party, so that they can try to basically fool as many, normal people essentially to elect their leader, like a Hitler, like a Stalin or whatever. They were the quote unquote conservatives of their day. While the Nazi party itself was, behind the scenes being like our Democrat party, they're wanting to burn the planet, burn everything to hell, and kill the Jews. Hitler had to be forced into Goebbels and Goering's final solution. By the way, he resisted them for 2 full years before he finally caved into it. That's what our Democratic Party is like today.
So you think that like the Biden and Kamal are they're kind of like Hitler or Stalin, and
absolutely. They are the pre final solution version of Hitler. Everybody on the planet, FDR would distribute Hitler's own Mein Kampf book at taxpayer expense in America because they loved him so much, because they agreed on their socialism together so much. If Hitler had not turned and agreed with the actual socialist fascists in his country and started to mass murder the Jews, and just, if all he did was just be an Occupy Wall Street guy and just say, down with the bankers, and that's it, he'd be still today. He'd be praised and hailed as one of the most, but the biggest left-wing heroes on the planet today. He'd be a hero today. But no, the fact that he started murdering people, and the conservative, the actual, the decent people on the planet had to unite and get off their couch and go across the water to go stop him, is what turned everything. And that's what the real crux of what I want to call the anti-America parties would like. I don't like left-wing, right-wing. I don't like Republican, Democrat. We got America versus anti-Americans right now.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
And that's what their real agenda is. They're the ones that want to burn the world.
Yeah, I agree. There's that
put a mask on to do it
on the left.
Hitler was
you don't think it's a bit hyperbolic to like compare a Joe Biden with Hitler.
Not at all. Not when you're trying to do historical contextual comparisons, because again, there are before and after scenarios and events. So again, like I was trying to relay, and I can go into more detail if you like. Hitler was the savior of the planet, not just Germany. Everybody, FDR, everybody, Stalin, not Churchill. What was the guy before him? Chamberlain. They would sing his praises.
They sung the praises of Hitler.
Yes. Hitler was the savior of the planet. And again, if Hitler hadn't agreed with
I'm not 100% sure
and
about
actually
that,
murdered people, if they hadn't got, actually they were murdering people 2 years before that was even came out in the Auschwitz. If they hadn't got caught trying to murder the religious people, then Hitler would still be praised as the savior of the planet today. I guarantee you.
Hey, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, John. For some reason, comments on my PC are showing up that are showing up on my phone that aren't showing up on the chat on my PC. That's weird.
Huh?
Is anybody else having that problem? Some comments are showing up.
I haven't checked.
Yeah, and I apologize, by the way. I would.
No, you're
disagree
good.
that
I'm
Biden
sorry. I
and them
just
are
wanted
the
to see if
post-
anybody else is having that problem. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Biden's not post Jew murder Hitler. He's the pre murder Jew murder Hitler. What do you call it? I don't know.
Right.
There's no name for it.
If you read like Mein Kampf and stuff like that.
Mhm. Yes, basic typical communist, socialist, fascist crap. I know.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
all the same.
and that's pre-Jew murder Hitler. That's like Hitler in the 20s, and I don't see a lot of resemblance between that and Joe Biden, personally.
Well, I mean, regardless, I mean, it's just that their policies match. They're Social Security, type whatever socialist type people. And again, Hitler was just the mask of the actual party, just like Biden is. Is all my point was.
Yeah,
Biden's just a mask.
I don't think Social Security is the harbinger of genociding Jews. Just to throw that out there.
That's just standard socialist communist manifesto stuff. Is all. Social Security was part of the Nazis' original 25-point program.
Okay, but like that doesn't mean that like anyone that has something similar to that is a Nazi, Joel. Like,
well, it means that they're socialist.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference, I think, between a fascist and a socialist. I'm getting an echo. Is anyone else getting an echo?
Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo. But John, somebody, I refreshed my phone and I think somebody's deleting comments or something.
Exactly. Sorry, Chris.
Go ahead.
Okay, if people are deleting comments, please stop doing that.
Someone had ended up getting into my system or something, man, and like hiding people from my channel, John. You might want to check that out.
I sorry I brought it to your attention. Go ahead.
Time Magazine made him Man of the Year too, Shadow. I'm sure you remember. Yeah,
I mean,
the world loved Hitler before he started agreeing with the rest of his party.
Well, yeah, so it's very ironic. One of the points that before Hitler went in, brain freeze. What was the little strip of land between France and Germany that Hitler occupied? Before
Sudetenland,
Rhineland,
Sudan.
Yeah, Sudan.
So it was Sudetenland. Yeah,
Czechoslovakia.
No. This was a portion they'd lost in World War One.
The one Chamberlain capitulated on, and peace in our time, give it over to Hitler.
So there was notes from Goebbels, I believe it was. So like Chamberlain comes over to Germany, meets with Hitler and all them, leaves, and like goes back to England, like makes this whole everything's gonna be great, and like literally as he walks out, Goebbels' notes were that Hitler started cracking up and talking about how what an idiot Chamberlain was, and how what a pawn. And it's like when you think about that whole piece of the puzzle, like that move enabled Hitler to gain strategic position. And at the time, they had not ramped up full scale military production because of like all the ramifications from the World War I sanctions. And it's like, wait a minute, we just like took this piece of land, like we committed an act of war and nobody did anything. Huh. And then like there was the point, like, I guess we can start doing other stuff. Nobody's gonna do jack. And like right after that, they made the move to ramp up weapon production and everything else, and the rest is history. But it's like those moments of those turning points from looking back in history, like, that's interesting. That had been addressed slightly differently, the outcome would have probably been who knows how many millions of fewer people would have died.
Yeah, one of Jesse's comments just got deleted too. I don't know what's going on in that. That's weird. Unless it's just doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that point about Chamberlain, that's exactly why I'm against capitulating to our enemies in any sense. I'm a political realist. I don't want to give them anything at any point in time. That's been part of my problem with Trump is he's kind of an isolationist, drawing back from the world stage. Biden does it too. I had this discussion tonight with a guy in my stream who's more hawkish than me. He actually wants to do a preemptive nuclear strike on North Korea, but I don't necessarily agree with that.
Great strategy.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. He has his arguments for it, but it's like I've said with those guys, because I roll in a lot of neoconservative circles where we talk about like what we're doing on the world stage, Trump versus Biden, who's better. Generally, we'll give credit to Trump on Iran. He's been a lot better than Obama, say. Pulling out of the Iran deal was amazing. It was great. Killing Soleimani was an amazing thing. That was awesome. Sucking up to Russia, I don't like it. Arguing that they should get back into the G8 without any concessions. They're still occupying Crimea. Don't like that. Or making friends with the North Koreans. I do like the recent turn of like turning on China. I think they're the greatest threat to us. I think we're already in a second Cold War with them, basically. And essentially, we're going to have to beat them somehow. So it's kind of a tangent, I guess, to everything else. But I generally want American power to expand, not shrink back from the world, not give up the Middle East, not my general view.
Here's the thing, though, with and I agree with you completely in terms of like the Cold War with China and such. The irony is that we actually still. Like the moves that Trump was making pre-COVID were, in my opinion, pretty much the only way to deal with China short of war. And from an economic perspective, while we still had the upper hand. Like, for example, I believe as of right now, the United States accounts for 23% of the export market for China. And for us, they represent like, I think it's like 3 or 4%. So when you think about that from an economic advantage perspective, like that, as the global market expands and smaller, and the amount of the export market the United States makes up for China has been shrinking, right? As third world countries are growing and the demand in other markets has expanded, our economic advantage has been minimized. So in the moves that Trump was making leading up to the whole COVID madness, we're putting a huge weight around the Communist Party to deal with. I mean,
I agree with that. That was something we brought up is the difference between the last Cold War and how we beat the Soviets. The difference was our economies were never as closely tied as ours is with China. Like we're each other's biggest trading partners. That's an issue. We're going to have to find a way to move our production ideally back to the United States, even if that means automating and implementing UBI or moving to more friendly territory like India, something like that. That would be better. Like anything to get us uneconomically attached to China at this point. My whole end game is I think we have to break the nation up, not our nation, China, but we've got to get them to where they're not a single nation with 1.5 billion people. That's a long term thing.
What's up with the far left? Just like bowing down. They're simping for China worse than
exactly.
Yeah, for,
and the right wing and the far right wing especially does the same.
Video, by the way.
That's part of Alexander Dugin's strategy. From he's kind of like the brain power of Putin. He wrote a book, Foundations of Geopolitics. This is part of their strategy. Is to essentially, they don't give a shit if it's far left, far right, whatever the fuck. As long as it's isolationist, as long as it is about the U.S. withdrawing from power in the world, they're okay with it. Anything to get us out of their shit. and they'll support it either way. And I've seen that a lot in my time on the internet. You'll see essentially, and I'm not saying it's all due to Russian bots or Iranian bots or whatever the fuck. Some of it's war exhaustion from the war on terror and things like that. It was already set up to be this way, where you have people who are essentially saying we have to end the forever wars, we have to get out of these places, we have to hate Israel and Saudi Arabia, who are our allies. You see this both on the far left and the far right. They both hate Israel. They both hate Saudi Arabia, and it's not much of a mystery to me why that is. These are politically important to Russia, especially, and our enemies, essentially. And it's not to say I don't have my criticisms of those countries, but I mean, geopolitically, they're important to us.
Yeah.
China owns too much shit here, man. Sorry.
I want to seize their assets. I want to take advantage of the Corona situation, seize all of their domestic assets,
they
encourage African nations especially, to do the same. China's been expanding in Africa. I want to encourage them, put pressure on them to do the same. We have to weaken them and destroy them.
Well, all I gotta say is in my opinion, one of the single greatest miscalculations and just straight up stupid moves and corruption that's been executed by Western civilization has been Africa as a continent in general. When you look at the billions of dollars that have been quote unquote invested in Africa in the continent over the last 40 years by the United States specifically, but other European countries. How is the majority of Africa still third world? I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, it's
a mystery.
Are you setting us up, man? I'm just kidding.
I mean, honestly, when you think about it from the perspective of with the lower cost of labor there, the amount of money is in the trillions comparatively, right? If the same amount of money was being invested here in the United States, you'd be talking about trillions of dollars versus billions. When you did a comparison of the labor cost, right? And how is there no water? What are you talking about? They're still walking 20 miles for water every day? How does this make any sense? I mean, it just no roads, no power. I mean, obviously there's a modicum amount of it, but it's just when you think about the more advanced. That's why I was Ogre when he's talking about sort of okay with nuclear power and such. General Electric has developed nuclear power plant technology, microplant technology, where they can build one for about $6 billion and build them within 2 years. And they're popping up all over the Middle East and in China using GE design technology, all these additional safety factors, all that kind of stuff. And the United States, we're still running on designs from 40 years ago. How does that make any sense? But in the context of Africa, why would Africa not have power plants? Why are these things not being built with all this capital that's being injected? And then fast forwarding to all what's going on with China, cool, we've spent all this billions of dollars for the people of Africa, the different nations. They've seen no benefit. China comes in and says, hey, we'll build all these roads for you. Who do you think is going to win the loyalty? Just saying.
Yeah. China likes to move in, man, wherever they can. That's why I think they let the virus get to Italy too, when they're having some labor disputes there. So it's just, I think they wanted to get here because Trump was putting the screws to them, and they just
most
having a bad year. And
what a lot of people don't know is that Wuhan is a major industrial hub of China, but the Chinese had bought the Italian leather market in whatever that first Hot Point area was. And there was huge amounts of Chinese labor that had come over to Italy so they could still maintain the made in Italy stuff. They bought all the factories, bought the companies, and then shipped over all these Chinese laborers to Italy to actually do the work. And they were from Wuhan. That's where there's huge amounts of travel back and forth between Wuhan. That's why it was the Hot Point.
Yeah.
because they had bought out that industry.
You're right. China pretty much owns us already, and they just haven't repossessed their asset for non-failure payment yet. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to jump out, guys. It's been great. I'll catch y'all later. Have a good night.
Appreciate it, Henry. Have a good one, man.
Take care, Henry.
Smokey, you've been being extraordinarily reserved tonight, man. Like, what's going on? Are you just being here and like so you can show off your
And he's
smoke?
3 hours. Yeah,
Your
he's
smoke
9 o'clock
animation,
your time,
or
man.
like what's going on, dude? Like,
No,
normally
it's
not
part
this
of it.
far.
I was just here to kind of hang out because you haven't done a stream in like weeks and stuff like that. That was part of it. And plus, Joel is kind of to me what Sky Out is to you. So I just kind of let it kind of run through.
Who? Who's this? I don't know who Sky Out is.
It's okay. LPP gets it. He knows.
There was some entertainment last night with last night was my first interaction with Sky Out.
That's unfortunate.
That guy is an idiot. I'm sorry. So folks, last night there was this dude over on Smokey's channel. It's King. Is he call himself King Sky Out? Is that what it is?
Yeah, King Sky Out, the master debater, the greatest of all time.
Masturbator would be.
Hey, so by the way, I re-listened to that portion with Richard explaining the whole like dinosaur footprint thing. Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Sorry. Unmuted. Hey, real quick, John. What was Smokey insulting me?
If you weren't paying attention, does it really matter?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't feel like
okay.
Spending time with Antichrist. You guys have a good night.
Oh yeah, not an Antichrist, dumb nut. Okay. See, and that's, by the way, that's what he does. This is the problem with Joel. He's too spineless to actually follow through with anything he has to actually say to me or have a conversation. He just throw things about me being a Mormon or an Antichrist and then runs away like a spineless little twat bag he is. So whatever, Joel, bye.
You guys have had ongoing.
Dude, he's garbage, dude.
Since
he's an idiot, redneck, gutter trash moron. And I have to sit here and stifle through most of it, which I did. I let him talk, let him say his stupid crap, and I just sat here and was respectful up until a certain point.
What was the original stream, John? I don't even know what the original
I was just giving a dissertation on my reconciliation of the epistemological issues with the Trinity and how coherent it was, for our claim. And he came in and called me a Mormon because he's a moron and doesn't know anything theologically coherent. So, that's what happened. And I didn't get to actually, here's the problem. I probably would have cleared it up with him already if people had let me actually clear it up with him last time on the stream, but it's still been going. And Joel is too spineless to actually talk to me directly to clear it up. He just sits in side chat and waits until there's an altercation, then runs away like the spineless twat he is.
Well, let's.
Hey man,
you asked. I didn't ask. I think you guys need to have I think y'all need to actually have a conversation.
We'll have him grow a pair and we can.
Well, okay, here again. I'll finish the sentence. Y'all need to have a non-live conversation. And by live, I mean
negative.
Like on public.
Negative.
For initial conversation to like figure out y'all's issues, because I know the
issue. He's a theological incompetent that's trying to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. That's the issue. I already know the issue.
Okay, well, whatever. Y'all need to have your beef out.
Well, he won't ever come to my channel. He won't actually come and confront me and deal with it. He just shows up here and cockroaches around your room here and there. So I never really get to have the interaction with him.
Okay. So last night, the madness that is this King Sky Out character is on full display. Richard, that stuff, Richard explaining that whole deal and him not comprehending what was being said was hilarious. I mean, I think all of us in the room understood what Richard was talking about, except for Sky Out. Would you say that's fair, Smokey?
It seemed that way. It actually did kind of seem that way, that Sky Out was just not kind of connected in those last couple dots of what was being said there. Yeah, I was kind of a little confused myself, like what Sky Out was even holding to at a certain point, because he's kind of like, oh yeah, that thing I was just saying a few minutes ago, I mean, I meant the complete opposite, that I'm actually saying now. And I'm like, I'm confused. I don't know what Skyout is actually trying to argue. It was a little weird.
Yeah, it was definitely strange. Before I go on the hot rebel, Jason, what's up, man? How you doing? How's things down in good old Tasmania?
Oh, well, the usual, just quiet out in the middle of nowhere. Quiet as quiet can be, but apart from that, just the usual, getting cars fixed and doing a bit of work here and there. Nothing too exciting. I'm a very boring person. I like boring. My life is boring, and boring is exciting to me.
Well, there's nothing wrong with
I've had enough excitement in my life.
Well, there's nothing wrong with living on some land in Tasmania and getting to interact with nature. There's nothing wrong with that by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, well, I'm not really a greenie or anything like that, but I do like the wallabies and that around my house, the kangaroos or the roos and the wallabies that hang around my house. They're protected from my dogs because I've got a fence around like 1 acre. That's my house is on 1 acre, my lawns and everything, and then the fence sort of protects the wallabies from my dogs. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of dead wallabies everywhere. No, I don't want them to get hurt, because I like seeing the mums have their little joeys and they grow up beside the fence eating the grass. The good grass grows through the side of the fence. I deliberately let it grow through the fence, and the wallabies, they come up and they eat it. So from the edge of the fence all the way around the fence line. So yeah, I get to see them and they get to stay safe. And we got echidnas, and the dogs can't hurt them because they've just got the most heinously sharp, super strong spikes. The dog one of my dogs attacked an echidna so many times one day, his whole face, or I think it was her, no, his whole face was just, I got a photo of it. It's just all bleeding. I couldn't stop him. I kept grabbing him, trying to drag him away, and he just kept running back at it, and his whole face was just bleeding, and the echidna wasn't even hurt one little bit. And then I stood back far away, and I watched the echidna just waddle off. Waddle off. They waddle when they walk. Just waddle off like nothing happened, you know what I mean? And my dog's bleeding all over its face.
Well, you're
tough as nails, but you don't have to worry about them.
Sound like your dog must have been a socialist. Although
I'd have to take him and have him euthanized, mate. I'd have to have him euthanized. It was a socialist.
Well, there's going to be a socialist in the stream or watches this that's going to say Jason, you were just calling for the euthanization of liberals. That's what you just said. That's the interpretation that's going to come out of that.
Okay, yeah.
Ronnie will clip it.
No, I'm not calling for the euthanasia of liberals, only of communists. Only of the dirty commies that want to overthrow society. I got nothing against Democrats. A 1965 Democrat, and I say this all the time because it's so true, a 1965 Democrat would be a Republican of today. That's like the things are changing. You know what I mean? But you think about it. Like a 1965 Democrat's values would be pretty close to 2020 average 2020 Republicans' values today.
Well, the irony is that if you actually look at JFK versus Trump is further to the left than JFK. So it fascinates me how ignorant the quote unquote modern progressive liberal Democrat is, and by that I mean like all these idiots I was dealing with tonight down at Belmont, and the talking points they were spewing out of their mouths. I'm like, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. You can't even explain the underlying evidence for or against your position. Like, all you have is a talking point. And it's just the same thing with the atheists. I mean, we hear the exact same crap, and it's like literally everything that you're claiming to be true has been proven to be false. And you're doubling down, just like Skyout did the other night. I mean, it's like, And I tell you, but sidebar, everybody, you do not tomorrow. You will not want to miss the debate between Standing for Truth and this Todd character, the guy
Trump
they
guaranteed. Sorry, Trump. I just want to say this, and I mean, it really annoys me when they call him racist. He guaranteed funding for 10 years for black universities. Guaranteed it. I mean, Obama made them come with their hat in their hand every year to get a new deal, whereas Trump just guaranteed it for 10 years. I mean, you know, he's bringing back companies from overseas that are moving back into black communities and setting up again and hiring people. The reason why the crime rate went up so much in black communities was because NAFTA sent all the companies, the manufacturing companies from blue collar areas, the black areas overseas. So then when someone had to get their sister, you know, $1,000 a month worth of medication to keep her alive, what did they do if there was no job there? They joined a gang. So then crime gets out of control. That's why crime went so bad. It was because of the stinking Democrats. They're the ones that signed all the jobs away and all the companies away. And Donald Trump's been bringing those companies back, and the black community is starting to see light at the end of the tunnel again. They're starting to see work and chances.
To expand on that point too, I mean, and Trump, you know, touched on this tonight in terms of the calling Biden out on the crime bills and such. But what people just refuse to even acknowledge is, I mean, it's gaining acknowledgement, but I'm talking on the left, the changes in the crime legislation resulted in a downward spiral, so infinitely perpetuating spiral of the utter destruction of the family unit and the increase in crime, gang membership, etc. You're talking about, by so many young men feeling like there was no point in even trying to be a productive member of society. And then when you think about that, they have this, you know, mental acceptance of like, well, I guess I will never be able to do anything with myself. So I guess I'm going to go, you know, in order to have some semblance, some feeling that I am actually doing something with myself, I guess I'm going to go try and make money off of, you know, being a drug dealer or, you know, being whatever, being a rapper who used to be a drug dealer. You know, those sorts of things were just perpetuated to such a degree.
And it was. And that's exactly the way it went. That's why crime is so out of control in those communities. And that's why you see in Chicago so many people getting shot. I mean, they took away the jobs. They took away the chance. I mean, most people would prefer to make less money and make it honestly and live an honest, decent life than to have to, you know, do drugs or whatever to survive or get by. I mean, even with welfare is not enough to keep them, you know, to pay their rent and bills and look after their family and stuff like that. So, I mean, often, you know, when it comes to things like that, they subsidize it with drugs. The only way to stop that is to bring back the companies and the manufacturing and Trump's taxes, high-end taxes. They say, oh, he's just giving tax breaks to the rich. Yeah, well, they're the companies that are going to come back to America, but they need an incentive to come back because they're in countries where they can hire 20 workers for one American worker per week. So they need a tax incentive to come back. They're saying, well, why would we come back if we can get 20 workers for one American worker overseas? I mean, we're going to get way more productivity out of that. So what are you going to do for us that's going to make us come back? So Trump gives them tax breaks. They go, okay, we'll come back, which raises the quality of life of the poorer areas. But they don't see it that way. They always try to spin it like, you know, Trump's in it for the big, you know, the high end of town and all that sort of stuff, and the idiots swallow it, and it really makes me angry.
I wish Trump would have did a better job of explaining that too, you know, because he didn't. I have to be fair in that. He didn't do a good job enough explaining. You actually did a better job than what he explained what he's done than what he does.
Well, I think to an extent there has been a definite increase in the Washington talking heads trying to give Trump his talking points to try and hit. And it's like, man, go back to 2016, dude. 2016 was you backed up, not all, but you backed up the majority of your bullshit and the things that haven't been gotten backed up have been a direct result of full-scale war on every level from the Democrats to block you. So I mean, it's like that's the thing that really pisses me off. I don't understand why the campaign folks have not been countering this much more aggressively. It's like all we've heard from the Democrats is Trump didn't do this, Trump didn't do that, Trump didn't do this, and it's like, how about we call out? He did it a little bit tonight, but like it needs to be like the full scale of, okay, so Chucky Schumer is running around claiming that I didn't do X. Well, here's why, and here's what Chucky did to stop me. Nancy Pelosi is claiming that I did nothing. Well, here's what Nancy Pelosi did. You know, like, here's why it was blocked. The left claims that I didn't do X, Y, and Z. You know why I didn't? There were 500, lawsuits filed by Democrat AGs, state AGs, that blocked me. There were rulings by X number of Democrat appointed judges that blocked me. Like, so who stopped it? What's the reason things weren't accomplished? They're claiming that we need to do this, but we didn't, but I wasn't able to do this. They're claiming this is a good thing to do. Then why did they actively block it from being accomplished? And now claiming that I was incompetent for not getting the thing done that they blocked.
Well, they got to keep them out of power. They had to have something to run against.
Well, no, I mean, I agree with you. I'm saying from a campaign perspective, like, call these little jokers out. They're on video all day.
I'm hoping that's what I'm hoping they're doing in ads, because I'm not in a state where they'd be running those kind of ads. That's why I ask people that live in these swing states what's going on with the ads and what's the feel there.
Well, true. There is we living in Tennessee, we don't get much of that stuff.
They're showing the Biden crime family ads where the emails and that. Those emails, they tried to say it was a Russia hoax on Fox, and I was really angry with Fox, and I was so cranky, the things that I was saying. But anyway, I was really angry with Fox. I said, CN, Fox N, and stuff like that, the fake news and all that. And then it turned out later on that two of Biden's business partners are facing prison, and they've flipped on him, and they've released 26,000 other emails that confirm what was on the hard drive, so they can no longer say it was a Russian hoax.
Well, here's what I got to say about all that is, at this point, if anything, I mean, the media to an extent covered up the level of corruption of Hillary Clinton and all of her crimes in the last election. The fact that the media is like, okay, so tonight, the Tommy Busha, whatever he pronounces his last name, the partner of the former CEO of the holding company that was run by Hunter Biden and all that stuff, who did his press conference about their like, oh no, Joe Biden was like an active player in all this, and going down, I can prove it beyond doubt, right? The only media outlet that covered the press conference before tonight's debate was Fox News. Not a single other one covered the press conference from the CEO of the holding company that was part of the China deals, publicly stated that Joe Biden was involved in these deals with the Communist Party of China for personal gain, and he can prove it. None of them covered it.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember? Yeah, do you remember when he asked him in the last debate, hey, what about this, Joe, and what about that, Joe? Trump's got the evidence in those emails. He had that way back then, I reckon. Trump knew about it. So that's, I reckon, or maybe he didn't know about it, but maybe he had advice that there was good evidence that if he, went along this line of questioning, that he might have some evidence come out later on or something like that. You know the way it works. But whatever, I reckon in some way Trump would have. So he's just made him, And Biden today, I saw Biden today deny all of that. Can you believe it? But Biden called it a Russian hoax during the debate. Did you see that?
I did. I mean, they're the whole Russian. The fact that the media and all of them and the Democrats are
calling it a Russian hoax. I'm sitting there going, "Come on!" They've flipped on him.
The fact they keep doubling down on it's Russia is they're gambling that the American people are dumb enough to buy that crap again, and secondarily, they're relying on the fact that the mainstream media is the extension. They're the Pravda of the Democrat Party, and are going to actively cover it up, and that Twitter and Facebook are going to conspire with the Democrat Party to defeat Trump, and Google. I mean, they're
Oh yeah,
full scale.
oh yeah, man.
Here's what I gotta say
You
about
bet they
that
are.
is
You bet
assuming
they are.
if
Google
Trump wins,
election tampering on a global scale, not just in America, all over the world.
well, no, I agree with you. I'm saying in context of like the campaign that's going on right now. If Trump
Yeah, that's
manages to
right.
win, Trump still manages to win, to overcome
Yeah.
the mainstream media, social media, and the guaranteed voter fraud it's going down right now.
Well, we
If
know
Trump manages to pull that
50,000
off and
Trump
still
things are in the
win,
river.
it will be the most epic victory.
Yeah, I know. Win
Oh, the amount of
in
trolling I'm
American
going to do.
history.
I mean, I'm clearing
It
my
will
calendar
be.
for the next 6 months to troll. That's just what I'm going to do. I'm serious.
I mean, it's going to be.
Chris Wallace is on top of my list first. Just
Oh yeah, Chris
turncoat.
Wallace. He's a dog.
He's
Chris
a man
Wallace,
because
you're a skunk, Wallace. That's what I want to call him. He's just a
he is
skunk.
dishonest.
He's a
That
skunk.
debate, man, just
He's a
showed
skunk, and there's that one other guy there, and I want to know his name too. He's another skunk.
Oh, you're talking about Neil
skunks.
Cavuto?
I don't know,
him either.
but he looks like a rat. He's a freaking. He looks like a rat, and he's a rat. He's a skunk.
Does he host a show,
well.
or is he just a pundit?
I can't remember.
Oh, I mean, no.
I can't remember. And I'll get a screenshot of him and stick it in a doc and write up something about him when I find out. I can't remember, but I know Chris Wallace is a skunk.
Oh,
I just despise. I can't stand him. You know that woman today, wherever she was from, she did a really good job. You know, she did it. I mean, compared to Wallace, she made Wallace look like an absolute moron.
She did. She was as fair. I mean,
yeah.
You can be
shocked.
Mainstream media.
Yeah, I was shocked, man. I thought it was going to be a real nightmare, but she just made Wallace look like such a scumbag, didn't she?
So sidebar.
I mean, she did such a good job compared to Wallace.
So sidebar about stupid talking heads. Tucker Carlson tonight, he showed a letter that was sent to Chris Cuomo by his property manager for him not wearing masks in the building and on the elevator like they're supposed to. And so, or you think about that, like Chris Cuomo, brother of Andrew Cuomo, talking head of his own show on CNN, who on a nightly basis goes on diatribes about how we just need to be more careful and we need to wear masks and stuff, literally got a citation letter from his own property manager of his apartment in New York City for refusing to wear masks. The hypocrisy knows no bounds. I get so much. Chris Cuomo may be the dumbest man on television because the level to which he contradicts himself. Oh, Frito.
What's that insult they call Cuomo that he really hates? He flipped.
Frito.
Which one?
Frito.
Yep.
Fredo.
Yep. Fredo. That's it. That's it. Good old Fredo. Poor old Fredo. I mean, I feel sorry for him. And he's going off. Oh, that's equivalent of calling someone the N-word and all that. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. It's just calling you a dummy. It's not calling you a, you know what I mean? It's not like an N-word or anything like that at all. And yeah, he really made an idiot of himself out over that one, didn't he? That was funny.
Brady, I agree with you completely. He says Tucker Carlson is the last media personality. One day there will be a movie made about him. Legend.
Yeah, he's awesome. Tucker's awesome, and so's what's his name again? Hannity. I like Hannity.
Hannity's good. He's for somebody like myself that knows a lot of the information. He's gotten a bit annoyingly repetitive.
Yeah.
But
he just keeps hammering that drum.
Yeah, I don't mean from the information he's purveying is great, but I kind of stopped watching him as much because like I've heard
he
so much of
trains
it.
fighters. Did you know that?
He changed what?
He trains cage fighters and that. Hannity.
Well, he's into martial arts.
Yeah, that's why he keeps hammering the same drum, mate. He's going the same style, just hammers it home. Yeah, the same way
rinse
he
and
teaches
repeat. That's what martial arts is. Training every day, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
I tell you what, one of the guys I still like is and Brady. You probably will recognize this too. I still love me some good old Lou Dobbs. He is.
Oh yeah, I like Lou Dobbs.
He gets
he's
some
a nice guy.
some entertainment. It's Lou Dobbs is epic, and Tucker Carlson. I agree, with Brady completely. Like Tucker is epic. Some of his exposés and just complete and utter eviscerations of some of these fools. And the thing I like about him too is that he doesn't stop at, oh, I'm only going to attack the left. Like if people on either side do something stupid, he calls them out. And that's what we need. And it's just, no favoritism. Just if you're going to be an idiot, then let's
it's like when Fox ran that. I just can't believe Fox ran the story about that being a Russia hoax. I didn't know anything about it at the time, but I just started attacking them, calling it fake news, this and that. You got no evidence. You know what I mean? I'm sure that what's his lawyer, Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is not going to be that stupid where he's going to get sucked into some hoax. You know what I mean? And he had said he had hundreds at the time. I thought it was hundreds, but apparently it's thousands of photos of him in disgusting sexual acts and smoking drugs in all sorts of really bad ways. I mean, smoking drugs is bad, but he makes it. Some of the photos are really, really bad. He said so. When he's got that sort of stuff, you can't say all that's Photoshop. You know what I mean? It's when it's just too much. There's too much overwhelming evidence, and then you got the department, someone from the DOJ come out and say that they've never thought for 1 second that it's got anything to do with Russia, and Russia's not a part of any investigation related to the hard drive. So you got it coming from them. You've got the two work business partners that are facing prison that have flipped on him, that have released 26,000 emails that confirm what was on the hard drive in the first place. It's anyone. Hunter Biden's in hiding, man. He's in hiding, isn't he? Or is he out of hiding, or is he what?
Who knows? He's disappeared. Yeah. I'm sure they've got him in full scale lockdown. Let's see. Let's see if this has got the interview. Okay. Man, there's just too many. Ugh. Okay, pop-up ads. Can you just let me watch the video? That'd be awesome. There we go. I think this is the press conference from earlier. Let's see. Where he straight up calls Joe Biden a liar. Oh my God. Man, these online news companies are getting ridiculous with their advertisements, like on video. It's like, oh, commercial, we'll play in 7 seconds, and then it's like, oh wait, another one for 29 seconds. Like, God, I just want to watch the video, folks. Okay.
Why is Joel such spineless bitch-made trash that he can't come in here and just have a conversation with me? Instead, he runs off and goes into side chat to carry it on there. I think the environment might be testing my better sensibilities, LPP.
I think the two of you need to have a off live conversation, and then if you can't resolve it, then you guys should go into full scale war mode. But I think you need to have a.
Well, he won't even talk anyway.
Oh, I know.
Like every time I'm around, he
paintball battle. Paintball battle between the two of them.
What does the Bible say? Two people coming together, and then if not, you get another or two. Is that how it goes? Is the Bible?
Yep.
Well, let's just get him to back up his accusations against me that he's constantly made but hasn't yet actually substantiated. Maybe we could start there.
Okay. All right. So here is Tony Baba. How do I pronounce his name?
There's nothing asserted that he did anything that was illegal. Look, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to, and I know you're not intending to do this, play the game to take the eye off the culprit. The culprit here is what may have looked bad but wasn't anything wrong is totally different than whether a president has held up.
Did I just watch all those freaking commercials to not get what I was looking for?
Dumb boss. Of the state of Delaware. We've never discussed anything. So there'd be no potential conflict. My son, like a lot of people, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of it.
Man, I would say all those. I'd say all those pictures would say he has not overcome his drug problem.
No, not at all.
Okay,
not
where
only
is
has he
this?
not overcome it, it's increased. It's increased.
Okay, in all seriousness though, where is the? I mean, is Google like blocking the press conference and like trying to keep people from being able to see this guy calling out Joe Biden? Okay, here we go.
I don't know. Probably.
Making
But
it
that's one thing that's one thing why they're talking about getting rid of the 230C. They want to get rid of the 230C to just allow the lawyers to come in and sue them out of existence. That's the best way to get rid of them.
Okay,
Just dump 230C and the government just sit back, wait till they're gone, and then start from scratch, and then rebuild it with better laws, that can guarantee freedom of speech.
Since leaving the Navy, I've been involved in various successful businesses, both in this country and abroad. I'm making this statement.
I can barely hear that.
Straight about the
Yeah, I've got the volume all the way up.
family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden in dealings with the Chinese. I have heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. I have also heard that Vice President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves. I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that spanned the years 2015 through 2018. These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man. The Bidens included. I have no wish to bury anyone. I've never been political. The few contributions I have made have been to Democrat. But what I am is a patriot and a veteran. To protect my family name and my business reputation, I need to ensure that the true facts are out there. In late 2015, I was approached by James Gilliar, whom I had known for many years, about joining him in a deal which he said would involve the Chinese state-owned enterprise, CEFC China Energy, and what he called one of the most prominent families in the United States. I was informed first by Gilliar, and then by Hunter Biden, and by Rob Walker, who was working with the Bidens, that the Bidens wanted to form a new entity with CFC, which was to invest in infrastructure, real estate, and technology in the U.S. and around the world. And the entity would initially be capitalized with $10 million and then grow to billions of dollars of investment capital. After months of discussion, I agreed at Gilliar and Hunter Biden's request to become CEO of the entity to be called Sinohawk. Sino representing the Chinese side, Hawk representing Hunter Biden's brother Bo's favorite animal. And between February and May 2017, we exchanged numerous emails, documents, and WhatsApp messages concerning Sinohawk and its potential business. On May 2nd, 2017, the night before Joe Biden was to appear in
WhatsApp messages.
I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level. After that meeting, I had numerous communications with Hunter, Walker, Gilliar, and Jim Biden regarding the allocation of the equity ownership of Sinohawk. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman. On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face. In fact, I was advised by Gilliar and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret. I also had a disagreement with Hunter about the funds CFC was contributing to Sinohawk. Hunter wanted $5 million of those funds to go to himself and his family, so he wanted the funds wired directly to an entity affiliated with him. I objected because that was contrary to our written agreements concerning Sinohawk. He said, referring to the chairman his father, that CFC was really investing in the Biden family, that he held the Trump card, and that he was the one putting his family legacy on the line. He also said to me on May 17th, 2017, that CFC wanted to be my partner, to be partnered with the Bidens. During these negotiations, I repeated to Hunter and others that Sinohawk could not be Hunter's personal piggy bank. And I demanded that proper corporate governance procedures be implemented for capital distributions. Hunter became very upset with me. CFC through July 2017 was assuring me the funds would be transferred to Sinohawk, but they were never sent to our company. Instead, I found out from Senator Johnson's September report that the $5 million was sent in August 2017 to entities affiliated with Hunter. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the Senate committee members concerning this matter, and I will be providing to the FBI the devices which contain the evidence corroborating what I have said. So I will not be taking any questions at this time.
Yeah. So that was right before, or a couple hours before tonight's debate.
Yeah.
If that doesn't straight up, like we're not talking. I mean, the dude's literally saying, like, "Hey, here's the evidence." Like nobody's questioning whether or not he was the CEO of the entity in question.
Yeah.
Nobody's questioning whether or not he had the relationship, or so and so. It's like, and the media didn't. Not a single media outlet outside of Fox News even reported on that. What we just watched. I mean,
yeah, that's terrible. That's disgusting.
And tomorrow he's gonna
scumbags.
tomorrow.
They really are a bunch
Tomorrow
of
that guy
demonic
is
scumbags.
Tomorrow that guy is testifying in front of the Senate.
Yeah, they're evil bastards. The media, the mainstream media in America are just evil bastards. They really are evil bastards, sick in the head.
Yep. Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. But anyway, well, I've got to get up in the AM. So everybody, I appreciate you coming to my first late night stream that I've been able to do in a while. If we'll get some more of these.
Yeah, it's getting late
soon, but I gotta call it a night, folks. I appreciate it very much. And tonight, obviously, we talked about a lot of different things, back and forth on Trump and just the madness of liberalism in general and such. But I do say to everyone, as always, that as we consider things, whether they be about politics, life, business, personal relationships, and all of the things in between and the overlaps, always make sure that the conclusions that you come to are logical, plausible, and probable, and that you make every effort to use the mental gifts that have been given to us by the Almighty God and use them to the best end outcomes. Thanks so much, folks. Appreciate you. And thanks for everybody that joined the stream and shared their opinions. And hope y'all have a great night, folks.
Thanks. Vote Trump.
See ya. Vote Trump. Yeah.
Cool.